No tears came out. Because I've already cried so many.
Have you ever gone into a new show thinking you knew exactly what kind of experience you were getting, only for your expectations to be completely and utterly upended? That's what happened to me when I began watching my teen romantic comedy SNAFU. When I started this anime, I had just come off of shows like My Dress-Up Darling, Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro, and even a rewatch of my most beloved, Love is War. Wanting to see more of what my favorite genre had to offer, I scoured the internet for other recommendations of good romance anime. And this anime in particular came up in dozens of lists, so I decided to give it a watch. After all, the show is literally named My Teen Romantic Comedy SNAFU. This had to be cute, funny, charming, and romantic, right? For anyone who's been lucky enough to see this show, you know how different rom-com SNAFU feels to any other romance anime. Its tone is much more serious. The dialogue is significantly more subtle, and the plot exists in service of this show's most important aspect, its characters. These aspects all make My Teen Romantic Comedy SNAFU one of the most interesting and most memorable anime I've ever seen. Before we continue, I'll need to issue a small spoiler warning. I don't think I'll spoil anything too massive, but I recommend watching this anime without any prior knowledge anyway. Also, if you could please leave a like, comment, or subscribe on this video, that would make me very grateful. With that out of the way, let's dive into the beginning of My Teen Romantic Comedy SNAFU. The most important difference between rom-com SNAFU and almost every other romantic comedy is the show's tone. If you've seen it, you know that this anime is not exactly a light and fluffy time. Sure, it starts out fairly innocent and honestly pretty funny, but as you get deeper into the story, the truth about My Teen Romantic Comedy SNAFU slowly begins to reveal itself. Despite its namesake, this anime isn't a romantic comedy at all, but is instead a very serious melodrama.
Please allow me, together with her, to bring this relationship to its proper end. But please, don't let it end.
Most romances will drum up excitement from the audience with adorable scenes between the main romantic pairing. It's fun to watch two people gradually grow closer and fall in love. It's exciting when they finally move from friends to lovers after dozens of episodes of build-up. My Teen Rom-Com SNAFU instead makes the prospect of a romance not only seem uncertain, but potentially even devastating. For reasons I'll get into later, a pairing off of the show's characters might end up causing more harm than good. It's undoubtedly still fun to watch these characters grow closer, but instead of feeling happy, fluttery excitement, you're feeling something closer to anxiety or worry.
I told you before, didn't I? It isn't trust. Feels nice having her rely on you though, right? But that codependency you had is over now.
The way the show writes its dialogue aids immensely in instilling this sense of worry in the viewer. As early as the first scene of episode 1, Rom-Com SNAFU reveals exactly how interesting its writing is going to be.
Those who look to rejoice in their youth deceive themselves and those around them, accepting in full the circumstances that devour them.
The lovely soliloquy here was written by the show's main protagonist, Hajiman Hikigaya. A lot of conversations between characters are written like this, especially in later seasons. These characters go back and forth spinning Victorian bars like they have something to prove.
So it doesn't matter who or what is around me. The things that happen in front of my eyes are just parts of my life. Don't try to fix things you don't get.
The dialogue is subtle, indirect, and poetic, sometimes to a fault. Season 1's writing is generally a lot more basic, but by the time we hit Season 2, this anime rapidly begins to feel like a long-lost adaptation of a Shakespeare play. It takes the idea of subtext and says, what if we just wrote the entire show to revolve around that? Even the climactic confession of love scene is filled with double meanings and metaphors.
So please, allow me the privilege of distorting your life. It's not enough compensation for distorting your life, but it's all yours.
In this moment, neither character says those 3 magic words, but neither of them have to. They know what they're saying, and so do we. I would be lying if I said I understood exactly what was being talked about in every conversation. Dialogue being intentionally obfuscated means that I often feel too dumb to be watching this anime. I fear I might be missing a lot of hidden subtext due to this approach to dialogue being somewhat hard to follow. But even so, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It gives rom-com SNAFU such a unique identity that I haven't seen in any other anime, at least not quite like this. If you know of any, leave a comment down below with it. I would be fascinated to see what else is out there with this kind of writing. Of course, good writing is wasted if the story being told isn't engaging. Rom-com SNAFU may not have the most incredible plot, but it doesn't need to. Remember the essay Hikigaya wrote from earlier? Well, his teacher Miss Hiratsuka did not find it a satisfactory submission for the assignment. But rather than forcing Hikigaya to rewrite it, she instead forces him to join the service club, in hopes that mandatory interaction with other people will fix his attitude problem and change his downer perspective on life. After all, it's the job of the service club to help other people with problems they may be having. Everything from homework to cooking to personal relationships. Needing to solve any number of issues should do wonders for Hikigaya's perpetually loner worldview.
It seems the loneliness that plagues you is simply a direct result of your stupid pride and contrary sensitivity.
Here to help Hikigaya on this journey is the club's president, Yukino Yukinoshida. These 2 characters are near polar opposites at the start of the story, leading to many arguments which reveal aspects of their personalities.
I have the extraordinary ability to be alone even in a large crowd of most people.
Only you could say something like that with such pride and conviction in your voice. I've gone beyond exasperation to contempt.
If you're beyond that, wouldn't you end up at respect?
The story revolves heavily around these 2 characters' differing opinions as they navigate requests from other students in the service club. The first of which comes from the 3rd primary cast member, Yui Yuigahama, who wants help learning how to bake cookies so she can give them as a gift to someone. After her request is complete, she ends up joining the service club along Yukino and Hikigaya. This marks the end of the first episode, and in a lot of ways, the end of the plot. From here on out, everything that happens is either in service of or a direct result of character dynamics. It's true that every good rom-com has strong characters, but in no other show have I ever seen characters written quite like this. So without further ado, let's finally analyze this show's most important aspect. The 3 protagonists, the dynamics shared between them, and the arcs they take across this narrative. Hikigaya is an incredibly fascinating character to me. He's intended to be the typical loser character presented in most of these shonen rom-coms. And he most certainly is somewhat like that at the start.
Can we just stay friends for now?
Forget being friends. After that, we never spoke again.
Even though this may seem derivative, he is significantly more complex than the vast majority of other protagonists that fill his role. Especially as the show progresses. I'm not even sure how to best describe Hikigaya. He's sort of like an enlightened Redditor. But instead of turning into a full-fledged incel, He's accepted who he is. He's genuinely a very confident person with a decently high opinion of himself. And, importantly, he's totally happy to live as a loner with a pessimistic worldview.
Just so you know, it's not like I can't talk to people or anything. I just don't make pointless small talk, so you see, I don't need to be fixed.
Hikigaya has put himself in a box of being socially isolated. However, as he himself has stated, he's perfectly capable of conversations and integrating into social situations. He just believes things would be better for everyone if he doesn't. This bizarre self-perspective allows Hikigaya to make equally bizarre choices when it comes to helping people requesting his services in the club. He's always willing to make himself the bad guy in the eyes of others if it means granting them a favorable outcome to their problems.
I understand it's not a pleasant thing to do.
I'll do it.
Huh?
It's not like I care what the rest of the class thinks of me.
The thing is, throwing himself under the bus usually does turn out well for everyone else involved. And Hikigaya doesn't mind that these choices often make things worse for him. After all, it's not really social suicide if nobody cares about you in the first place, right? However, Hikigaya is completely wrong in his assessment that nobody cares for him.
You know you don't always have to put yourself out there as the enemy in order to help someone else. It's time you opened your eyes and see that there are people around you who hurt when they see that you're hurting.
Primarily, those people are the other two members of the service club. Yui Yuigahama and Yukino Yukinoshida. Yukino and Hikigaya generally don't get along well when the show starts out.
Don't tell me you're on a date with this guy.
Certainly not. If you're talking about the object on my right, that's not even a funny joke.
Do you think you could possibly stop being so mean to me when you're busy arguing with somebody else?
And in a lot of ways, they're polar opposites. They almost always have differing opinions on how to help others with service requests. Hikigaya has a very positive relationship with his sister. Meanwhile, Yukino's relationship with her family is the most toxic and manipulative bullshit I've ever seen.
Instead, you're going to force some other sucker to do the job you don't want to bother with, just like Mom always does. It's okay if you don't do anything, lil sis. Someone else will always do it for you.
They also appear to have vastly different social standings. Hikigaya is an invisible ghost, while Yukino is too popular for her own good. This is the cross-section where their similarities shine through the most. Despite being on polar opposite ends of the social ladder, both of them are totally friendless. For Hikigaya, it's because nobody knows him due to his isolationist efforts. But for Yukino, it's because people simply don't like her. She's standoffish, isn't afraid to be rude, and is stubborn as a mule. That last point is actually also shared by Hikigaya. Neither of them can admit that the other might have better plans for whatever problem they're facing. In fact, they even share each other's personalities quite closely. They're cold, calculating, and smart enough to be both the cause and solution to their own problems. The problems caused by their bullheadedness are exacerbated when you realize that the two of them suck at communicating.
I can't really explain it, but the way you handle things, I hate it.
A major theme of this anime is actually the inability to put your feelings into words, because words just don't convey what they need to. The stubbornness shared between Yukino and Hikigaya is a microcosm of this theme. Their general vibe is contrasted sharply by the third member of the service club, Yui Yuigahama. She is overly kind, outgoing, and a significantly more glass-half-full kind of person than either Hikigaya or Yukino. She made herself best friends with Yukino almost immediately, and she's equally friendly with Hikigaya right from the start. The early episodes of this show allow Yui to bridge the vast canyon between Yukino and Hikigaya, so all three of them can meaningfully interact, despite the background animosity. Yui's character is a lot more straightforward than the other two, so I have less to say about her. But don't let her comparative simplicity deceive you. She's still incredibly important to this story. And oh boy, what a story it is. Sure, the plot beyond episode 1 can be summed up in basically a single sentence. 3 relative strangers form deeper and deeper connections over time until they eventually become inseparable friends, and possibly even more. But it's not about the simplicity of the plot. Rather, it's about the details of how events unfold and how these characters develop over the plot. Hikigaya, Yukino, and Yui each maneuver through their blooming relationships in ways only they would. I've made a point to say that my teen romantic comedy SNAFU is not particularly romantic or comedic, but it is still technically a romance anime. As such, the motivations for each of these characters' actions revolve partially around romantic feelings and an incredibly complicated love triangle. The actions of Hikigaya, Yukino, and Yui are constantly intersecting to not only build the tension in their romantic relationship, but also to help each other move forward through their own character arcs. Starting with Hikigaya. At the start of the show, he doesn't believe that any romantic feelings towards him are genuine. He thinks that Yukino and Yui could only like him out of some sense of guilt or pity. Hikigaya can't accept that these budding emotions are real. He can't accept that anyone's emotions or feelings are real. He believes everyone is superficial and insincere.
People who are nice to me are also nice to everyone else. I almost end up forgetting that. If the truth is cruel, then lies must be kind. That's why kindness is a lie.
Yet, as Hikigaya spends more time around Yui and Yukino, he begins to long for that which he once considered fake.
I really want something genuine.
Yukino is definitely responsible for most of the impact on Hikigaya's shift in perspective. Since the start of the show, she's been someone who speaks her mind and doesn't try to make appearances for the sake of maintaining a social status quo.
Why can't you just accept someone for who they are and what's in their past?
That won't... Because that's not going to solve anyone's worries. Nor will it save anyone.
Her actions directly challenge Hikigaya's beliefs about how people interact. But Yukino is only one person. Yui's impact can't be ignored either. Her outgoingness forced Hikigaya into way more social situations than he would have normally found himself in. This creates a positive feedback loop of sorts. The more time he spends in the social spotlight, the more he grows as a person. And the more he grows as a person, the more people come to appreciate and like him, let alone know about him.
Thanks for what you did. You really helped me out.
Hikigaya always puts 110% into everything he does for the service club, even at his own expense. It's plain for everyone to see just how dedicated Hikigaya is to helping other people, a trait which is obviously appealing.
Hey, you really ought to know your own worth. So just stop. Stop sacrificing yourself.
And to be honest, Yui had a similar impact on Yukino's character. Yui became her first real friend. Before Yui, Yukino was a person who drew a lot of ire from her peers. She was too smart and pretty for her own good. It made others jealous. Yui, being the kind person that she is, managed to break through the icy mask worn by Yukino to open her up to future friendships.
Why choose me for this?
Because you're the only good friend I can ask to do something like this, Yukino.
Good friend? Really?
Yeah, you're my friend.
If it wasn't for Yui, I find it hard to believe that Hikigaya would have ever been more to Yukino than a punching bag. I don't want to discredit what Hikigaya managed to do on his own, though. Yukino was always someone who pushed herself too hard, someone who refused to rely on others.
But from what I can see here, it looks like Yukinoshida is doing most of the work.
It's just more efficient this way.
Yeah, but you're about to fall apart.
The main reason for this has to do with her toxic-ass family life, which is a whole can of worms I simply cannot get into. But what's important is that Hikigaya challenges her self-reliant views, and slowly convinces her to reconsider how best to go about helping others and herself.
The way you're going about this is wrong.
So, do you know the right way to do it?
I don't actually. However, I can tell you it'd be way different from what you've been doing lately.
Yui, Yukino, and Hikigaya influenced each other so much in their time spent together. The more they help each other to grow, the more receptive they are to future growth. They have all made each other much better, happier, and more experienced people. So it's no surprise they've all become good friends. They've become such good friends, in fact, that these three people have found themselves amidst a very complicated and very dramatic love triangle.
I'm hoping it ends up being your wish that gets granted instead.
Do you even know what my wish is? Do you even get it?
Yes. I think ours are the same.
Yui and Yukino each care a lot about the other, so neither of them wants to make moves on Hikigaya for fear of hurting the other's feelings. The friendship they already have is incredibly important to them, perhaps even more so than the prospect of a romantic partner. So they both wait for Hikigaya to make moves instead. But of course, Hikigaya doesn't want to ruin these friendships either. This is possibly the only time he's ever had genuine friends. All three of them are afraid of ruining what they already have.
We can't let whatever we have end without knowing! Now or never!
Moreover, Hikigaya can't possibly put into words the way he feels. So the three of them just remain friends and nothing more for nearly the entire runtime. This anime keeps you guessing who the final couple is going to be all the way till the 11th hour. But when it finally does happen, it feels right. Getting to that point took so much growth from all three of them, and seeing that growth pay off is incredibly satisfying. The more involved Yui, Yukino, and especially Hikigaya exist in the lives of others, the better their own lives become. I think this anime does a good job of showing that becoming a more well-rounded person will lead to a more fulfilling life. It's a positive message to try and pass on. My teen romantic comedy SNAFU will remain in my head for a long time. It feels so different from almost every other anime I've seen due to its prolific use of subtext and poetic writing style. There is so much more I could talk about. I didn't even bring up the side characters, all of whom add so much more to this story. I can only hope I did this anime justice today with this video I made. It's not an easy one to fully explore. If you think I did a decent job, consider leaving a like on this video. It took a very long time to make this one. Then, if you're interested, check out some of the other videos I've made. I have more anime essays and a smattering of video game content. You're sure to find something else you like on my channel. Thank you so much for watching this. Please remember to stay positive and have a wonderful day.